All right, let's talk about Git. So there are essentially two ways you can collaborate with a Git project. So the first way of working with Git is based on a branch-based model. That's what you already know. So branch-based model. That means you got master branch, yep, and then you got your branches. Branch one, branch 2, branch 3, and then you create the way you merge branch 1. Let me simplify that. So branch 1 merge into master via pull request. That's, guys, what you've been doing so far. There is, however, a different way of dealing with Git, which is a fork-based model. And the way this works is you still got, let me rephrase that. So you got a repo, that's your repo name, that's your project on GitHub, and then that repo has a master branch, and then it got multiple branches. Yeah, that's what you got so far. The fork-based model means you got a repo, still the same thing. That repo has master, branch 1, branch 2, branch 3. That's the same thing. However, there are multiple repos. So there is the official repo. That's what we call the Upstream. And then everyone can create a fork repo, fork 1, and then of course they can replicate that structure. So fork 1, fork 2, fork 3, whatever. Yeah. So what's the difference? When do we use one and when do we use the other? So the branch-based model works with teams that have I'm trying to find the good words that have full access to the repo. So that's essentially commercial projects. Yeah. In other words, if you join a company, you are likely to use a branch-based model. Why? Because you got access to everything, right? I mean, it's a bit scary if you think about it. It's a bit scary. Of course, there are some ways to prevent people doing stupid things, but in reality, they give you access to the main repo, to the multi-million repo, and then you work with it via branches, hopefully. Yeah. The fork-based model is slightly different. So that works with teams. When I mean teams, could be talking about people, individuals, yeah, that don't have access to the main repo. So, in other words, this is about open source projects. So, for instance, React. React, that's an open source project. So imagine, guys, that you want to collaborate with React, yeah, because you find a bug or you got a nice idea about how to improve React using, I don't know, fragments or whatever, yeah. So based on the branch-based model, so the way you will collaborate is you will need to ask Facebook, hey, Facebook, please give me access to the React repo because I want to create some branches, whatever. So Facebook will need to explicitly check the settings of the React project, add you access, which is bullshit, right? That's not the way it works. React has maybe 200 collaborators. I just made that number up. Maybe it's 2,000 instead of 200. I don't know. I don't know how many people, right? We can figure out, actually. So if you want to collaborate with React, what you do is you fork the main repo. Forking a repo means, to simplify things, copy and paste. So you create a copy of React in your personal project, in your personal GitHub account. You play with them, you play with it because, guys, a repo you fork is a copy of the original one. So you can break it. You can do whatever you want here. You got full control on it. And then, imagine that you work with React, with your forked version of React, you do some changes, and after spending some weeks playing with the changes, you realize that, hey, you build something quite cool. You build something nice. What you want to do, because this is private, this is only for you, you want to incorporate your changes you've done here. I don't care if you build the changes on your master branch of your fork, or you build your changes into a branch of your fork. I don't really care. Yeah? You build your changes into your fork. Eventually, you want to incorporate these changes into the upstream, so everybody on the React community can enjoy that feature that you have built. So then what you do is you create essentially merge into master upstream via pull request. So that's the same process. The difference is, working with a branch-based model, the pull request is from one branch to the master branch. Working with a fork-based model, the pull request runs from your personal repo to the upstream repo. And then there will be someone at Facebook responsible to review it, to approve it, to reject it, whatever. That's the fork-based model. The reason why I would like you to follow a fork-based model for your team project is not because that's probably the most natural way. I mean, if we were working in a real company, we will probably be using the branch-based model. But the thing is, you already know that because you've been following the branch-based model as part of Codeflix, and you are invited to continue running pull requests as part of Codeflix, even as part of the portfolio, guys. You are more than invited to continue following that approach. But I would like you to learn something new, because many developers struggle to understand how to play with forks. Yeah? So that's what I would like to follow today. Is there any questions, guys, before we start playing with forks? Can you repeat the question, Panos? Yes. 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 That's correct. Yes. Only from master. Yeah. It's up to you guys. You are still invited to create internal pull requests. The process is the same. Let me give you an example. You want back to the same use case scenario. You want to collaborate with React, but you don't want to mess your own fork. So what you do is you create a branch of React on your fork, you play with it, then you merge into your master branch. Yeah. So that will be the first step. You merge your branch into your master, and then once your changes are here, then so that's the same thing via pull request. And once you've done that, you create another pull request. So the first step is sort of private, and the second step is sort of public, because you are trying to send some code from your private fork to the upstream. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct, guys. Let me give you an example once again. Imagine that we all decide, hey, let's improve React, and we as Codery, we create a fork of React. Yeah, so we're here. But now, for instance, Esteban wants to play with something. So Esteban is not gonna work with the master branch. He will create a new branch. He will do all the dirty stuff. And then once he's done, me or someone else, some of you, will review what Esteban has done. So once everyone agrees on what Esteban has done, then we as a team, as a company, we will send a pull request to Facebook, like, hey, we've done that. Facebook doesn't know. Facebook doesn't know if we have created 1 branch or 20 branches, because that's some sort of black box for Facebook. This is our internal way of organizing our efforts. The only thing Facebook knows is that we have created a pull request to add a new feature to React, but they don't know how we end up creating that pull request. Six forks. Yes, 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 yes. That's what I'm going to explain now. Everyone, guys. So the way we're going to work is talking about CodeFit. The app name is CodeFit, right? KODFIT. Is that correct? Or I made it wrong? Okay, cool. So I already created that. I already created CodeFit. What is it? What is it? It is on the Codery account. You see? Codery/CodeFit. That's like the central repo. Yeah? So now, as Dan suggested, everyone is going to create a version of CodeFit. So for instance, Adam, imagine that this is Adam's username, Adam/CodeFit, and here we will get Panos/CodeFit, and so on. Yeah, and so on. So whenever Adam wants to add a new feature to the team app, he will create a pull request to the Codery organization. Yeah? We did something special here. We gave you also access as administrators here, which is not usual, obviously. Yeah, but we did that. Why? Because we want you to review both roles. We want you to play the developer role, where you create a new feature for your team app, of course. But we also want you to play the tech lead role, if you want, where, for instance, someone sends a pull request and someone else of you reviews the pull request and merge the changes here. You won't be allowed to push anything here directly. Every change on your team app will be, first of all, implemented on your personal fork, and then it will be incorporated into the Upstream via pull request. That's the process. So let me present you an example. I got 2 GitHub accounts. So first of all, this is the Upstream. Yeah, Upstream, once again, guys, you need to get used to the semantics or to the wording here. So the Upstream is the original repo, which is owned by Codery in this particular case. Yeah, and I'm signed in as my personal account. Yeah, that's the one. I'm some sort of the administrator, so I can do whatever I want with this project. So the project is here, and now I got a secondary account. So this is a different account. So what I want to do is I want to fork. I did that already, but I'll do that again. I want to fork this project. Actually, let me really do that from scratch, because I did some steps before. Let me remove everything I did, guys. Not sure if that will work, or I may be taking too many risks, but let's try that. So let me remove literally everything. So, and let me remove the fork I already created. So just hold on with me, please. What's before? No, that's wrong. That's wrong. So I'm going to remove. Let me try to remove that project. So you don't need to do that, right? Because you don't need to remove your fork, but I will delete it because I want to start again. So yeah, maybe that was too risky, but anyway, let's, if it doesn't work, I'll try to find out a workaround. So with this secondary account, imagine that is the first time I want to collaborate. I have no idea what that CodeFit project is, but I like the purpose. So I said, hey, why not? I want to collaborate with it. So the first thing you do, guys, the first thing we do is you click on this fork button. That's the first thing. And the fork button will take few seconds, maybe 30 seconds. You see, forking it should only take a few seconds. So that's essentially exporting the original project, the original CodeFit project into my personal account. You see, this is my secondary GitHub account, and then this is the CodeFit repo, and then fork from the Upstream. So on the left-hand side, you got the name of the owner of the repo and then the name of the project. So this is literally a copy-paste. It's a copy-paste. So I can do whatever I want here because I'm not going to I'm not going to have any impact on the Upstream repo. So, all right, fantastic. I got that repo copied over to my personal account. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna install it on my laptop. So what you will do is, guys, you will select clone or download, and then you will select use SSH, as you know. You've done that, guys. I think you've done that when setting up CodeFlix. If you don't remember, because probably you did it a couple of months ago, please review the very first, or I think it's the second video on the CodeFlix catalog, where we show you how to upload your app to the cloud. Yeah. So you will select that option, the use SSH. You will copy that. I'm, however, going to use HTTPS, and the only reason is you use SSH because with SSH you don't need to enter your username and password every time. However, I'm going to use HTTPS because I'm playing with multiple GitHub accounts, and then it's just easier to enter manually my username and password every time because I have multiple user accounts. That's the only reason. Yeah, you will see as soon as I try to commit and push, I will have to enter my username and password, but that's fine. You don't have to do that. So you just copy that, the SSH, once again, not the HTTPS, and then you go back to your terminal. So what you do is, if you remember, git clone, and then you paste the URL. Pay attention, guys. You see, I'm not copying the upstream. I'm copying my fork because that comes from my secondary account. You see, that's the name of my secondary GitHub account, and then the name of the project I forked a couple of minutes ago. So now, once you do that, essentially, I got my project working locally. So back to VS Code, let's open it, guys. Let's open the project. So I go to open folder, and now I need to find the location of that project, which is here. So this is a let me share that content on Slack in case you want to use it later on. So now my point is, let me open the project with VS Code again. So I had to cancel it. So let me select it again. So now, hopefully, I will get my CodeFit project, which is simply a Hello World application. Yeah, I just created the app. I just prepared the skeleton of the app. So, guys, how do you start the server now? Hello? npm start, correct. But the question seems stupid, but let me explain you why I'm asking you that. I go to a terminal, new terminal, and then I typed npm start. And then look what happened. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Can anyone figure out why npm start didn't work as soon as I cloned the project? Correct. That's correct, Ian. When you create a new project with Create React App, all the dependencies listed on the package.json, I think we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, all these dependencies got automatically installed. However, this time, I'm not creating a new project, guys. I'm checking out an existing one. So, whenever you check out a project, you have to run npm install. So when you type npm install, it will Node will check all the list of dependencies and it will install them all one by one. Okay? So remember to run npm install every time you check out an existing project. Otherwise, it won't work. because that, yeah, someone has a question. Yep. Yes. No, 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 no. Wait. So there are two different things. So one thing is the version of Node. Another thing is the version of the dependencies. These two things are completely independent. They are completely independent. It doesn't really matter the version of Node you have towards installing a list of dependencies. The version of Node you have, it's only relevant, Adam, when you play with your backend code. You remember yesterday, I present you an example about using flat. You remember that? So I cannot use flat on my backend because my version of Node, which is 10 point something, doesn't support it. So if I wanted to use flat on my backend code, I will need to update the version of Node. But to install the dependencies, that doesn't really matter. So yeah, that process that may take a while, to be honest. So in the meantime, that remembers me why I had some steps already prepared, right? Because that may take a while. Anyway, we can. I hope we can wait. So in the meantime, I got my project here. I mean, you are quite familiar with the folder structure because that's the same. That's the same you've been using from the first day of the bootcamp. So imagine in the meantime that I want to change something. Yeah, that's why I forked the project because I want to change something. I want to collaborate. So look, I got this is the default page. You remember, guys, the spinning React logo with "Welcome to React," whatever. So I wanna change the title because that's some sort of placeholder. So let me change uh, the title to uh, "Welcome." Well, or actually, let me remove everything here and then let me go to the CSS and then I'm just doing some cleanup tasks. Yeah, and then let me just keep the title. So the title will be welcome to ColdFit. So if I do that, the next thing I need to do is obviously, I mean, as technically speaking, guys, you should wait until everything got installed because you wait, you can do npm start, and when you do npm start, you can check that what you've done makes sense, right? So I'm using some tricks here to speed up the workshop. All right. So once you do that, once you've done that, the next thing you do is you commit and push, right? You commit and push. So first of all, let me review the changes. I'm slowing down my pace a bit to wait until the npm install finishes. All right, so I've cleaned up my CSS, and then what about my JavaScript? So on my JavaScript, yeah, I've cleaned up everything as well. Okay, so assuming that is okay, so the next thing I would like to do is to commit my changes. So uh, cleaning up the HTML and CSS. So commit. Let me try to push. I'm not sure if push will work. Let me try, see what happens. It's trying to push. It may have worked. It may have worked. So now let me go back to my project. So now my question is, will these changes be available on the Upstream? What do you think? Only on my fork, yes? So that's correct. That's correct. That's correct. Look, if I check on the Upstream owned by Codery, uh, yeah, nothing has changed. Yeah? I mean, you got some previous stuff from yesterday, but from today there is nothing new, which makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah? In theory, I'm not allowed to push anything directly to the Upstream. I need to create a pull request. However, hopefully, if I check the list of commits on my branch, on my fork, look. You see? You see, now there is something a bit controversial here. You see that's wrong because I'm using multiple GitHub accounts. Everything was submitted from my main account, not from my secondary account. I didn't want to do that, guys. I didn't want to do that. Anyway, it's not a big problem because at the end of the day, you have permissions everywhere. Let me try to add a second commit because we got time. So I'm going to add some exclamation marks to the title, and let me try to push changes using my secondary account. Let me see if that works or not. So adding some emphasis to the app title. So commit. And now before pushing, let me try to push using the command line interface. So with a bit of lag, if I try to push from the command line interface, I will have to enter my credentials, hopefully. I'm not sure about that. So git push. No, unfortunately is using my main account. It's okay, guys. It's not a big problem. That's okay. That's okay, right? That's okay. So I got that's okay. I got some changes on my fork. You can ignore who has submitted the changes. Yeah, I got changes on my fork. So now my plan is I want to incorporate these changes into the upstream. So can you tell me, guys, based on what we've been discussing so far, how can I incorporate these changes into the master branch, into the upstream? Sorry. That's correct. That's correct. That's perfect, Adam. That's brilliant. I go to pull requests, and then I can create a new pull request. So you know already that you can create a pull request from your branch to your master branch. But also, look, you see, you got a bunch of selectors, a bunch of drop downs. Here you can customize the direction of the pull request. Pay attention, guys. Let's read that right to left. On the right hand side, you say the origin of the pull request is my personal project / CodeFit. Yeah, from the master branch. So you see, you can even create a pull request from a different branch, but to simplify things, let's create it from master. And the target, yeah, the destination of my pull request is the upstream because it's owned by Codery, also to master. Yeah. So that's all we need. And of course, at the bottom, you can compare essentially the impact of your pull request. Yeah, that's important. So you create pull request. And now, obviously, you can provide a title. So cleaning up the content to start building the app from scratch, whatever. Yeah. Obviously, when you collaborate with an external company, make sure that your pull request looks as interesting as possible. So you click on the create pull request. And now, once you've done that, what we need to do is back to the upstream, someone else, yeah. So back to the upstream, and let me go to the root page of the upstream because otherwise it's a bit confusing. Yeah, that's a bit confusing because it's like changing my GitHub username. So let me go back. Here you go. So you see now. I created, guys, I know that's a bit confusing. I told you before. I created the pull request from my secondary account. There is no picture. So now another user, which is again myself, but with a different account. So technically speaking, two different users. That's my main user. So that guy will be the responsible on reviewing the pull request. So if we go to the pull request tabs on the upstream, obviously, there will be some email notification. So me, as the owner of the upstream, will receive an email like, hey, someone, you don't know who is that person, created a pull request. Please review it. Yeah. So then I come here, and then I need to deal with it. So that's the same process you're really familiar with. Yeah. So I see that person. I have no idea what that person is, but I don't really care. 1 minute ago, created a pull request, blah, 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 blah. Let's review the changes. You see, you got the files changes tab. I think that's a bit confusing from a UX point of view, but you have to get used to it. So you click on the files change tab and you see there are two change files. So you can perform a side-by-side comparison, and then you can decide whether you want to approve it or not. Imagine that even though the pull request looks good, we don't really want to approve it. Why? Because we are not happy with the way we specify the title of the app. So what we can do is we can add a comment. So we can say, please increase the size of the title. Something like that. So once we drop the comment, imagine that that's all we want to do. So we can finish our review and then saying, no, I don't want to approve the changes. I want to request some updates on that pull request. So you submit the review. And now the person who created that pull request, which in this particular case is my secondary account, that person has received an email saying, hey, the owner of CodeFit wants you to introduce some changes. So then from the email, we'll end up on the pull request view, and then we'll be able to follow the history of the pull request. So you see, we created the pull request 3 minutes ago. We got lucky enough because the owner of the repo was very, very, very fast dealing with it. And then please increase the size of the title. So we now have to deal with that particular request. So what do we do next? Do we have to create a new pull request? Do we have to create a new branch? None of that. The only thing we need to do is back to our local project. Thankfully, npm install has finished. So hopefully now we can type npm start. And now we can actually see, we can interact with our changes. So so let me open the server into a new port. So just give me a second. And I'm gonna open my CodeFit application locally. So if you give me a second, you can ignore the content because that's old. So ignore that content, guys. You see, it's trying to load the new version of my CodeFit application. So let's just wait a few seconds. That's a bit slow. So the pull request said, hey, guy, please make the size of the text bigger. So guys, question, how can you increase the size of your text using HTML? Fantastic. That's it, Panos. So yeah, let's do that. Let's use H1, H2. I mean, I will seriously like to wait until the server is available, because then we'll be able to see the impact of our changes. Yeah, it's very slow today, so I don't want to ruin your productivity. So let's just simply add it. Yeah, so I'm surrounding my title with an H1, and then we got the same process. Yeah, we did some changes. So now my message will be increasing the title of the app. Guys, when I do a change because someone else suggested it, look, I think that's now, it will be ready in a minute. So when I do that on my commit title, I used to explain why I'm doing that change. So you see, now I got welcome to CodeFit as a proper title. So my commit title will be increasing the title of the app as per suggested on the pull request. So that's a way to say, hey, that's not because I really want to do that. Well, maybe I want to do that, but the main reason why I introduced that change is because the pull request suggested it. So there is some accountability here. If tomorrow my business analyst or my manager asks, hey, why you've done that? I can say, hey, I did that because someone else asked me to do that. All right, so commit, push. And now once the push is done, if we check on the pull request view, you can see, guys, that GitHub immediately took the change. You see, after the review, you see that sort of timeline. Now we are increasing the title of the app as per suggested. So that means because there are some changes, let's review them again. So if I check the changes on the, wait, me. Okay. That's guys. Be careful. Be careful. Be careful. Be careful. Be careful. That view is out of date. You see, that doesn't incorporate my changes. But there is a button here. I never seen that, to be honest, called refresh. So make sure you play with the latest version of your pull request. And here you go. You see now I can clearly see that the developer, whoever that person is, managed to satisfy my appetite. So I'm quite happy with that. So let me say thank you, and let's. Oh, why cannot approve that? Oh, yeah, that was the most confusing part. I think I cannot approve the changes because once again, by accident, myself, I was the person who actually pushed the pull request. That's why that was so confusing. Yeah. So I pushed the last commit from my main account instead of from the. No, sorry, guys. Oh, sorry, that's a bit confusing. So when you try to impersonate yourself, that's a bit confusing. Look, you see what the problem is. This tab is using my secondary account. Obviously, I cannot approve my own changes, right? So that's stupid. Ignore me. So I'm the creator of the pull request. So I'm done. Now the control is on the other user, which is my main user. So if I check with my main user, here it is, my main user. So now hopefully I can approve that pull request. Let's have a look. So if I go to files change, once again, let's refresh to make sure we get the most updated version of the pull request. Then you see my changes with the heading and everything. So let's try to approve these changes. You see, this time I can approve them. So I can send a message to my secondary account, thank you, whatever, and then submit. So now the requester, the person who created the pull request, got a new notification on the email. So if I join the conversation again, yeah, I will be delighted in a minute. So let me refresh. Sometimes GitHub picks the changes without refreshing. Sometimes it takes a while. Just in case, just refresh the page to make sure you get the latest version. Yeah, you see, my main account has approved my changes with the message "thank you," which is fantastic. It's fantastic. So now, I mean, that's pretty much the same thing you've done with your Coldflix project. So what we need to do is to merge the changes. We got different options. Do you know, guys, the difference between merging, which is the default one, and squashing and merging? Does anyone know the difference between these two options? Yeah, go for it. Yes. Yes. Exactly. That's it, Panos. That's exactly it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. You say that. Yeah. So no. So with yeah, I mean, to simplify things, let's keep it as simple as possible. If you just merge, as you said, so this pull request had 3 commits. So if we simply merge, on the upstream we'll have 3 new commits. If we squash, as Panos suggested, all these 3 commits will combine into a single one. Yeah? That option, squash and merge, is preferred, generally speaking. Why? Because what happened if our branch had 25 commits? It's just a bit harder to keep track of the history of your upstream. Yeah? If you got one branch, if you got one pull request, it's fantastic to keep everything into one commit. Let me give you another reason. Imagine that because of whatever circumstance, you are introducing a huge bug in your pull request. Some customers can access passwords or something very dirty. Yeah. So if you got individual commits, if you select the first option, it will be a bit more complicated to roll back, to go back in time, to go back to a previous version. If all your pull requests is squashed into a single commit, it's much easier to roll it back. Yeah. So let me suggest you using squash and merge. And of course, you got some messages here, and then you said confirm that I want to squash and merge, and then the pull request got closed automatically. And that means that, guys, will my changes about cleaning up my content be available into the Upstream now? Yes or no? No? Why not? Cool. Guys, please pay attention to the message. That person merged that commit into code remaster. Merge into code remaster 17 seconds ago. So definitely, once we squash and merge, if we go back to the Upstream, if I check the list of commits, if you remember, guys, we got 4 commits before. Now we got one more, 5. Why 5 instead of 6 or 7? Because we've selected squash and merge. You see? All the changes associated to my pull request have been squashed into a single commit on the Upstream. Any questions? So one more thing. Dealing with forks can be an absolute nightmare. Why? In this particular case, I'm the only contributor, right? So, that simplifies things a lot. But what happened? Imagine that, because that happens at the moment, right? Imagine that I didn't do any of that. That was made by, I don't know, that was made by Dan. Dan added some changes. So if I go back to my VS Code, will I have the changes that Dan has incorporated 1 minute ago locally? No, exactly. The changes are only available on the Upstream. Yeah, so you need to be very careful with the way Git works, guys. We got different layers here. So we got the Upstream, which is in the cloud. Yeah, that's on GitHub. You got your fork, but when talking about your fork, you have to be careful, guys, because we're talking about the cloud fork, which is your GitHub, but you also got the local fork, which is your computer. If Dan, Adam, Panos, Sebrima, Minji, Ian, whatever, if any of you add some changes to the Upstream, that means the Upstream is ahead of your fork, or the other way around. You are behind the Upstream, and on the other way around, when you add some changes to your fork before you merge them into the Upstream, you are ahead of Upstream, or on the other way around, the Upstream is behind your fork. So we have to synchronize the Upstream with your fork, both locally and in the cloud, all the time. The more often you synchronize these two repositories, the less problems you are gonna have. The worst thing you can have when talking about coding is Git conflicts. Git conflicts means if I'm changing app.js, but Ian is changing the same file, eventually we'll have a conflict. And dealing with conflicts is complicated. I'm not going to explain how to deal with conflicts now because this could take hours. Yeah, but for now, let's try to avoid having conflicts. First things first. So, how do I synchronize the fork with the Upstream? There are a series of commands you have to run every single second of your life. I'm exaggerating, obviously. Not every second, but definitely every day. Next time you send me a message on the Slack asking, hey, I got a conflict, I don't know what to do, my next question is, when was the last time you synchronized with the Upstream? So, what commands do we need to run? So I will send you a link, Git forking or syncing a fork, I think is the name of the article. Just give me a second. Syncing a fork, yeah. So there is an article I'm going to share with you right now that tells you the steps you have to follow to make sure your fork is in sync with the upstream. So let's just follow this guide. It's pretty simple. Yeah. The first step is called git fetch upstream, and there is something important here, guys. Look, I'm just going to follow the steps on this guide, and if there is anything wrong, we'll analyze why. Look, the first command is git fetch upstream, and that didn't work. I got an error. You will get the same error. So let's analyze why. Why we got this error? The reason is because our laptop has no idea about where the upstream is. If I type git remote -v, you see what we got here, guys. What we got here is the location of our remote fork, the fork in the cloud. You see? That's it. You can rename cloud with origin, which is the same as cloud if you want. Yeah, origin equals cloud. So I know that line already, but I have no idea about where my upstream is. So we need to do that. We have to do that. We have to add a new remote. We have to tell GitHub where the upstream is, because if we don't know where the upstream in the cloud is, we won't be able to synchronize it. So how do we do that? It's pretty simple. You have to go to the main repo, to the upstream repo, and then you have to copy, same process we did before, clone or download. You don't really want to clone or download. The only thing you want to do is to add a new remote to tell your laptop where the hell that project is on the cloud. You can use the HTTPS here, that's fine, because you are not going to commit and push anything directly to the upstream. You will always do that via pull request. So what you do is git remote add, and then before we did origin, but we don't want to do origin this time, we want to do upstream. Okay? So we are telling our laptop where the upstream is, and where the upstream is in this address, github.com/codery, the owner of the repo, and then the name of the repo. So now if we type git remote -v, you see I got both the origin, which is my fork in the cloud, and then I got upstream, which is the main repo in the cloud. So once we've done that, let's try to follow the instructions again. Git fetch upstream. Let's type that. Git fetch upstream. And now you see that's working. So what's going on? So git fetch upstream is essentially downloading all the metadata associated to the upstream. That has nothing to do with the code, guys. So if you were behind the upstream, you'll still be behind upstream. This is only metadata, branches, collaborators, whatever. Just metadata. And now the second step is, guys, make sure you are working with the master branch. You know, sometimes by accident you move to a new branch and you forget to go back to master. So, you know, easy peasy, just make sure you are in master branch. And then the next step is the complicated one. This is where the hell starts. Git merge upstream master is where now GitHub will try to pull all the changes from the upstream into your local branch. So git merge upstream master. So now when you run that command, that's pretty interesting, because now GitHub is trying to pull some changes from the cloud. If you get something like that, this is the V editor. Not sure if you are familiar with it, but this is some sort of command line editor. And this is essentially Git is automatically creating a new commit with all the metadata incorporated from the upstream. So what do we do next? We just want to approve that commit message. If you want it, you can change the message name. I'm not going to explain how to do that. But if you get something like that, let me show you the commands to approve the changes. You need to press escape, and then colon, and then W to write the changes, and then Q to exit. So once you do that, your upstream is in sync with your local. But remember, we also have to synchronize with our origin, with our cloud in our fork. So what we need to do is simply git push that will send all the changes that we have incorporated from the upstream to our local. We will send these changes to our cloud in our fork. And that's it, guys. These three steps, git fetch upstream, git checkout master, and especially git merge upstream master, the more often you run them, the more productive you will be as a developer. And that's it. So, questions? These guys, that's complicated. To me, dealing with Git and to the majority of the developers is one of the most complicated, if not the most complicated part of coding. Yeah, but this is because of a reason, because there is a lot of power. You know, Git was created by Linux. Yeah, because the Linux is a huge project. It's a huge, one of the largest web project, one of the largest projects in the world. And they created Git because they needed a powerful tool to work as a team, to work in a distributed way. The Linux project has thousands of collaborators. Yeah, so Git is very powerful, but it's sometimes very complicated. So before you start working on your CodeFit application, make sure you rewatch this workshop and you understand all the steps. That means that now, because I gave you access to CodeFit, you can start working. So now it's up to you to fork the upstream repo, to start building on it, and to start creating pull requests. You got admin access everywhere, so that means that you can play both roles. You can play the requester role, so you can do some coding, and then of course you can create a pull request to get your changes approved by any of your colleagues. So if you got any other questions, let me know. I don't think that's the case. So yeah, that was it from my side, guys. So thank you for watching.